Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Collective Audiences channel with performance advertising that drives traffic, brand reach, and obviously transactions and more. Basically, joining us to discuss, we have the CEO, Peter, here. First and foremost, welcome, sir.
Neat to meet you. Great to be here.
Yeah, such a pleasure to get you on. So we're looking kind of to get a broad-based overview of the company, some milestones, a little bit of history of yourself, but you kind of have this ecosystem you built out that's basically highly unique to performance-based advertising that didn't really exist in the past that you're kind of looking to build out the global infrastructure of. For newer audiences, can you kind of simplify this? Give us a base elevator pitch. What exactly are you guys doing there at Collective Audience?
Yeah, sure. It's really important to understand where we came from, both as a company, the individuals in the company, but as an industry to where we are today. And then several of the, really important micro, macro economic things that are happening today as everyone hears about death of the cookies, but there's so much more than that. But just to take a step back, when we think about the beginning of the internet and digital transformation, we think of that as the 1.0 of digital media and advertising, which is akin to the Big Bang Theory, right? So you have this massive fragmentation created as that digital transformation was occurring in industries and primarily media and advertising that were first being digitally transformed. The second phase, similar again to the Big Bang Theory, or one of the big thought leaders in marketing so aptly put, Seth Godin, is about gravity. Because if you didn't have gravity, you would have no organization, and the whole thing basically implodes on itself. But that gravity then started to create the silos and the massive walled gardens, of today's 2.0 world. And while it created organization, it's also created incredible friction, or what we lovingly call within the industry the ad tax, and that there's so many hops in the supply path between buyer and seller of everybody doing one thing. By the time a dollar is spent by an advertiser or brand or agency and it reaches the publisher, they get about 10 cents on the dollar. So you have massive margin compression. Now, including the other issues that are happening now as data really is becoming that new asset class. I mean, data from today going forward, mark my words, and the AI to really create the intelligent automation, the ability to extract information is what gold was to the gold rush, or oil was to the industrial age. But in order to unlock the value in that, you also have to remove all the friction. So there's quite a bit of simplifying that needs to be able to happen in creating these direct connections. The challenge is that all the current incumbents that are out there, have legacy technologies, legacy ways that they're structured, and they're not really built in a modern tech stack that would facilitate that. So that brings us to today. What we believe is the future is about open interconnected ecosystems. And we are in a position with a wonderful public platform and current initial assets in it that are building that ecosystem out. Removes the friction, creates direct connections, facilitates efficient liquidity in data, increases the value of publishers' inventories, increases the return on investment for advertisers who are really looking ultimately for transactional-based advertising, and many things that come in underpinning that. Just to add to that, one of the companies that I built initially, where we disrupted the performance advertising industry, was the first ad exchange for performance-based advertising. And it used to drive me crazy because at that time, in 2010 through 13, everybody was saying, you can't be supply and demand, that's a conflict of interest. Or we wanted to launch our own publisher network out. You can't own your own publishing sites, that's a conflict of interest with your publishers. And I inadvertently say, well, if you look at Google and Facebook, it's working rather well for them. In today's world, it's absolutely, it has to. All these pieces need to come together, integrated into this open ecosystem, or even what you'll hear a lot of conversations now about walled gardens versus the open internet, and the open internet is going to win. And so that's really how we've positioned ourselves, within the market as that, leader developing that next generation 3.0 open ecosystem.
And I appreciate the insight. And as you kind of build out this ecosystem, you've been talking about acquisitions, some joint ventures. How are you looking at kind of, bringing this company to scale?
Sure. So first from, how we went public in the de-SPAC, which really created this great opportunity to have the platform that we have. We took some of the assets or some really interesting technology, publishing, advertising, automation, and we brought that in. But we're currently in the middle. We've announced the first of two very tactical acquisitions. One that is a core technology building block, where we've now announced our Audience Desk and Audience Cloud, which really gives us a very, very modern, hyper scalable tech stack that enables us to be more of a infrastructure player within the ecosystem versus, like I said, within the supply path, another thing that sits between buyer and seller. The first acquisition we announced was Beop, French company, amazing tech team, very fresh perspective, solving the challenges that we have in the US market. And I think we've had a lot of very iterative change here, but not on a substantive level where, it's really affecting that change at scale the way this tech stack can. And honestly, we probably have to buy 3 companies to have acquired what we acquired in one, let alone, a product and engineering team that really understands the future of that. Besides that, as we're going global, we now, with that, we'll own and control 80% of the entire French market of every brand, agency, and publisher, as well as we have a footprint in Germany, the UK, and now in Japan, and then integrating into us in the United States. Another really important part of that is on the marrying services with technology, which we really believe is mission critical as well. They live in agencies and they live in different components. They need to come together. So we just announced, and we're moving very quickly to a closing, DSL. DSL is a phenomenal company. They are think of them as the Navy SEALs of SAP and the SAP network. They have an incredible B2B performance advertising channel and team. They are the guys that all the teams in SAP go to when they say, I'm not going to hit my quarter numbers. I need to get there. The big brand agency can't get me there. They're the go-to, as well as they've developed some very interesting artificial intelligence tools internally and AI automation where they can ingest brand briefs, as an example, from the big agency. The AI creates, 100 creatives, depending on the channels they want to advertise in. And then as the campaigns are running against their metrics, which could be, downloads, users, subscriptions, email capture, as the performance starts to, when a trader's turn double bottom, the artificial intelligence all of a sudden realize we need to refresh the campaigns and it'll automatically create another 100 creatives and another 100 creatives. So it's constantly optimizing the return on investment on that spend in a way that as humans is far more efficient in driving outcomes. Those are the first 2 pieces that we believe, without even making any other acquisitions, give us an incredible global footprint. It's hyper scalable. We're going to be looking at launching both organic new applications and then looking at making other tactical accretive tuck-in acquisitions. And it's really, the accretive piece is really important too, because we do get the question, oh, these are highly dilutive. How are you structuring these acquisitions? They're all stock. We believe there is accretive and destructive dilution in the way you're doing acquisitions, and all of these are highly accretive in many different ways, both from the foundation all the way up into the enterprise value, which is ultimately driving revenue.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate this clarity here. It's kind of fascinating to say the least, but roll back. I mean, how does somebody like yourself, Peter, kind of roll down the road of getting into that aha moment that starts Collective Audience?
Oh, God, that's a great question. It's been a journey. I've been in this industry for 30 years, starting in traditional media and advertising, and then the internet came along and I saw what that was going to, really do to media, especially as traditional media wasn't embracing it, unfortunately, in the beginning. And the plan that we're executing now actually goes all the way back to during the days of the beginning of the internet, and we were buying a public company at that time called Net Radio. Beat out everybody, from iHeart to other big brands. And we wanted to take that public platform, which was an online broadcaster, and use that as a platform with 5 million fanatical users in their database, serving display ads, which no one's really paying attention to. But we knew that just starting to do performance-based marketing into that database, within 2 quarters, we could get it profitable. And then we would use the public platform to really start creating that very modern, fully integrated digital media advertising and data database platform that is a true modern media and advertising company. Unfortunately, and I would say unfortunately and fortunately, that deal was supposed to close on September 13th. 9/11 happened, and that was the end of everything for a while. But that really was the very beginning of the journey to today. And why I say it's actually a good thing it didn't happen, because today it is more relevant than ever. Not even relevant. It's not a matter of if and when, it has to happen now. And along that journey, as I founded and/or was running other companies or on the boards of other media companies, it just constantly kept confirming what data was, the issues with the fragmentation. Even one of the companies that I founded that became the leading exchange for the performance advertising industry that I mentioned earlier, that business plan was based on that just in the performance advertising industry, which was also hyper fragmented, hyper siloed, hyper paranoid. And we were able to go from 0 to 100 million in revenues in a 4-year period. We became the 9th fastest growing company in the United States, just solving that issue in that one vertical. Fast forward today, and especially being on the boards of some amazing companies in media such as Beasley Media, and seeing all the challenges that are being faced by brands or by other fellow operators that we're constantly talking to, it really brought us to this point in time, with a wide open window that is clearly a problem that has got to be it has to be solved, or this industry is never going to reach the estimated 2 trillion in total addressable global market by 2030 or 2031. So it's not something that I thought of a few weeks ago or months ago. It's something I've been thinking about and planning for years, and really came to this point where, as we all learn as entrepreneurs and operators, timing is everything. It could not be better. Compounded again, as I referenced to other macro issues that are happening not only within the industry, but with companies in this industry in general. There is no venture capital. There is no path to liquidity. You have all these great operators who've built phenomenal pieces of technology, or companies like a DSL Digital or like a BEOP, and they're not done building, but they realize they need to be a part of something bigger to get that economy of scale. And that's really the sweet spot that we're sitting on. As we talk to the street, like, oh, you guys are a roll-up. And my answer is, we are absolutely not a roll-up. Everything we do is extremely purposeful. And if you think about all the things that we're doing organically, or through these accretive tuck-in acquisitions, think of them as Lego building blocks. And what we have internally, we call it our rising tide model, is we don't do anything unless that product that's launched or that company that is acquired or application gets exponential growth, and then creates exponential growth across the entire ecosystem. And we were very, very disciplined, from that aspect in what we're building.
On that note, we'll pass it off to the viewers. We'd love to know what you think in that comment section below, and definitely consider subscribing, because when news and catalysts hit the wire, we're going to bring it to you here. But on that note, as always, we look forward to catching you in the next one.